Good day from the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow, and welcome to our coverage of the arrival of 3 additional crew members to the International Space Station. At this hour, some 2 days following their launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, Soyuz Commander Sergei Ryzhikov, Flight Engineer Andrei Borisenko, and NASA Flight Engineer Shane Kimbrough are approaching for a docking at the International Space Station about 44 minutes from now. Docking scheduled at 4:59 a.m. Central Time, 12:59 p.m. Moscow time. The Soyuz MS-02 spacecraft is now within 6 kilometers of its arrival at the Poist module, the space-facing port on the Russian segment of the International Space Station, with docking, as we said, just about 44 minutes from now. The Soyuz and the International Space Station are currently 250 miles above the Earth, crossing over the coast of Chile on a southwest to northeast inclination of 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. Everything aboard the Soyuz is in excellent shape, as it has been over the course of the 2 days from the Soyuz's launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko about to commence at least 4 months on board the International Space Station. For Ryzhikov, this is his first flight into space. For Kimbrough and Borisenko, their second flights into space. Borisenko, his second long-duration mission aboard the International Space Station. On board the complex, awaiting the arrival of Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko, are the current Expedition 49 residents on the International Outpost, the station commander, Anatoly Ivanishin of Roscosmos, NASA Flight Engineer Kate Rubins, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency Flight Engineer Takuya Onishi, who have been on board the station since July 7th. They only have a few more days on board the outpost, scheduled to depart the International Space Station on October 29th for a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan on the morning of October 30th Kazakhstan time, very late on the evening of October 29th U.S. time. In the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers is on console at this hour. At the moment, Flight Director Jeff Radigan is leading this team that will oversee the docking of the Soyuz spacecraft to the International Space Station. Radigan, the second from your right at the top of your screen, joined on console on the far right of your screen by Flight Director Mary Lawrence. Spacecraft communicator Rebecca Wingfield is talking to Rubins, Onishi, and Ivanishin aboard the International Space Station. And to her right, on the far left of your screen, veteran astronaut Joe Acaba, a Soyuz systems expert, as a second set of eyes overlooking the performance of the Soyuz during these final minutes before docking, contact, and capture that will bring Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko to their new home in orbit for the next several months. The journey of the MS-02 vehicle and the 3 new crew members that will arrive on the International Space Station a few minutes from now began on Wednesday with their launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. It was a very cold and windy day on the steppe of Kazakhstan as ignition of the Soyuz vehicle occurred at 2:05 p.m. Baikonur time as the turbo pumps and the engines came up to flight speed and liftoff of the Soyuz MS-02 vehicle, again at 2:05 p.m. Baikonur time. The launch was perfect into a thick overcast, the Soyuz disappearing into the clouds just seconds after its liftoff, but it was on target as it arced out to the northeast of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, headed for its preliminary orbit, with orbital insertion occurring just 8 minutes and 45 seconds after launch. Since then, the Soyuz has been on a pre-programmed series of engine firings to raise its altitude and fine-tune its path to the International Space Station. Again, docking is scheduled at 4:59 a.m. Central Time. The Soyuz will move into a fly-around of the International Space Station about 25 minutes from now. It will precisely align itself with the docking port at the Poist module On the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station, there'll be a few seconds of station keeping to allow Russian flight controllers here at the Russian Mission Control Center to conduct one final check of the Soyuz systems and the Soyuz's alignment before the command is given for final approach that will lead the Soyuz to its contact and capture with the poised module, again, docking scheduled at 4:59 a.m. Central Time.
Could you please work with the, could you please push the button? The range is 3.7, the rate is 8723, the light of sight.
Everything is proceeding normally with the approach of the Soyuz. All of its thruster firings have been right on the money. There'll be a series of short impulse burns coming up just a moment or two from now to further fine-tune a precise path of the Soyuz for its docking to the poised module. The level of activity has increased exponentially aboard the International Space Station. Not only are the station and the Soyuz flying parallel to the east coast of South America, moving from southwest to northeast, but trailing those two vehicles is the orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft, the unpiloted cargo craft that launched from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia on the evening, last Monday evening, U.S. time. It has been in a loitering orbit to allow all of this Soyuz activity of launch and docking to be completed. The Cygnus will arrive in the neighborhood of the International Space Station early Sunday morning with its capture scheduled at 6:05 a.m. Central Time. The robotic arm under the command of Takoya Onishi and Kate Rubens on board the International Space Station. Cygnus will be captured and berthed to the space-facing port of the Harmony, of the Unity module of the International Space Station to deliver some 2.5 tons of food and supplies, as well as scientific experiments to the crew on board the International Space Station. As we said earlier, Kimbrough, Ryzhikov and Borisenko, the three arriving crew members on the International Space Station, will have a very scant few days of handover time with Rubens, Ivanishin, and Onishi before Rubens, Ivanishin, and Onishi climb aboard their spacecraft, the Soyuz MS-01, that is docked to the Rossviet module on the Earth-facing side of the International Space Station's Russian segment, heading home for their landing on the early morning hours of October 30th for a parachute-assisted touchdown on the steppe of Kazakhstan. At that point, Kimbrough, Borisenko, and Ryzhikov will be a three-man crew aboard the International Space Station until November 16th, when another trio of crew members will launch on the MS-03 vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. That crew consisting of NASA's Peggy Whitson, Soyuz Commander Oleg Novitsky, and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet. They will be launching from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the wee hours of November 16th, headed for the International Space Station to bring that crew back to a full complement of 6 crew members once again.
We have depot operation, we have joined GSO, and we have mode stabil. The SKD operation was at 12:23:53 when it started to operate. The acceleration is 0.43. The KDO parameters are nominal, so we had 5.1. We worked 5.1. Everything is nominal. Inaudible. So the velocity is 3.1. The velocity of the maneuver is 3.1. Copy.
Station Moscow Space to ground 1 for Anatoly.
So there is a rotation.
Go ahead. Anatoly, are you getting the video on VACO 2? That's affirmative, as well as on the symbol. Copy, thank you.
This is Mission Control Korolyov. As you have been hearing through the interpreted space-to-grounds from the Soyuz vehicle, the Soyuz commander, Sergei Ryzhikov, in the center seat of the descent module of the Soyuz MS-02, flanked on his left by flight engineer and board engineer number 1, Andrei Borisenko, and on his right by NASA flight engineer Shane Kimbrough. The pre-programmed command of the thruster firings, Impulse 4, just completed. There are a couple of additional mid-course correction burns, fine-tuning burns that will be conducted over the next few minutes before the Soyuz begins its fly-around about 19 minutes from now to precisely align itself with the Poisk module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. We should be regaining our downlink television capability from the International Space Station and its external cameras about a minute or so from now. So we'll stand by for that to kick in as we approach the terminal phase of the two-day journey of the MS-02 from its launch pad of the Baikonur Cosmodrome to deliver Shane Kimbrough, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Andrei Borisenko to their new home in orbit for the next 4 months.
We are a little bit to the left and also a bit lower. We are ready to use AGC if needed. Do you have the image on VKO monitor? No, we do not have any image yet. All right, copy. Favori, please work with the AGC at your convenience. The range is 1,300 and the closing rate 3.97. Copy. We are receiving the image.
Docking would offer MS 600 meters off to the commander.
Дальность 300 метров.
Range 300, rate 0.68.
Визуально диаметру агрегатного отсека служебного.
And back now with our television capability through NASA TV. Again, we apologize for that minor disruption in the television transmission. But now back as we are in the final phase of the rendezvous to bring the Soyuz MS-02 vehicle to its docking to the International Space Station. The Soyuz is now just 290 meters away, still in the process of its fly-around to precisely align itself with the hoist module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. All of the Soyuz systems are in excellent shape. The Soyuz is currently at the International Space Station, both crossing the west coast of Africa directly over the Gambia moving from southwest to northeast at an altitude of 250 statute miles. Trailing those two vehicles, the orbital ATK Cygnus unmanned cargo craft that will arrive for its capture and installation to the International Space Station on Sunday morning. But first things first, and that is the arrival of Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko just minutes away as the fly-around is about to be completed for a period of a few seconds of station keeping that will enable Russian flight controllers here at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow to complete final checks on the Soyuz spacecraft before the command is given for final approach and docking.
Главная скорость облета 0,26.
And the rate of fly around is 0.26 in yaw.
А диаметр СМ сколько клеток сейчас?
And the service module diameter,
Порядка одной клетки.
it's about 1 square now,
Соответствует.
and we now have the range of 245 meters, which is corresponding.
метров дальность.
240 meters, rate 0.3,
Главная скорость облета 0. Также 0,3.
and fly around rate also 0.3, continuing the nominal fly around.
Правая солнечная батарея СМ.
And we are commencing our self-propulsion.
As you can hear, the fly-around of the International Space Station just about completed, as the Soyuz will then conduct a roll maneuver to orient its solar arrays in the proper configuration, the proper angle for the final approach for docking to the poised module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. A very brief period of station keeping will ensue just minutes from now at a range of about 192 meters. The Soyuz currently 223 meters away from its final destination.
Solar arrays. Copy.
Дальность 220.
And external cameras on the International Space Station now providing a good view of the approaching Soyuz vehicle. The three newest crew members that will board the station, Ryzhikov, Kimbrough, and Borisenko, following the docking and the closing of the hooks on the Soyuz to the docking mechanism on the poised module, will conduct leak checks over the course of about 1.5 orbits, just over 2 hours worth of leak checks and pressure checks on both sides of the docking interface. The station crew will conduct the same leak check on their side, on the station side of the poised module interface, before hatches will open later today. Again, we are at the station keeping point for the Soyuz. Final systems checks now underway by the flight control team here in Korolyov.
метров дальность.
Range 200 meters.
Скорость практически нулевая.
Rate is practically zero. Continuing the fly around in yaw. Copy.
The Soyuz MS-02 vehicle currently sitting passively at a distance of about 192 meters away from the International Space Station, currently crossing the border between Mali and Algeria, moving from southwest to northeast, in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. The Soyuz and the International Space Station looking respectively at each other, and the crew members aboard the station, NASA's Kate Rubins, Takoya Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and Station Commander Anatoly Ivanishin of Roscosmos, with an excellent view of the Soyuz vehicle and the Soyuz similarly looking at the station as they await final approval for the command to initiate the final approach for docking.
Fly-around rate is decreasing.
Небольшая раскачка.
We have a
В режиме облета.
small wobble and
Переходим
fly-around.
на АКС.
An excellent view of the Soyuz MS-02 and its thruster firings to orient itself and its solar array wings into the proper orientation for the initiation of final approach. We'll be standing by a short time from now to receive that word from the Russian flight controllers here in Korolyov. All Soyuz systems in excellent shape. The crew reports they are ready for docking.
Дальность 200 метров. Скорость 0.
Range 200
Есть завкон.
meters, rate 0.8.
Есть завкон.
The roll maneuver is complete.
Есть станционный причал.
We have ISS причал.
Поворы можно сворачивать картинкой и выдавать причал.
Favor, you can.
The word from the flight controllers, the Corps' automated rendezvous system has oriented the Soyuz's forward docking mechanism into the proper configuration. The Corps' antenna will be retracted as it always is during final approach to maintain a clean vehicle interface between the Soyuz and the Poisk module. All of the Soyuz systems in excellent shape as we stand by for the final word for final approach.
Thrusters.
Разворачиваем.
And we have range 195 meters.
Поворы по возможности.
190 meters range.
And following a period of just a few seconds of station keeping, a perfect alignment between the Soyuz and the Poisk module, final approach has been reinitiated. You can see in the lower left-hand corner of this engineering crosshair view from the Soyuz external television camera the decreasing distance between the Soyuz and the station, now at 168 meters, closing at a rate of about 0.8 of a meter per second.
Поворы на второй уровень давайте выставим.
Favor, let's go to level 2. Copy.
Второй уровень.
Level 2.
Это достаточно.
It should be enough. Thank you.
150 метров дальность.
150 meters. We have 0.89.
Стыковочный узел
Right.
наблюдаю отчетливо.
We can see the docking port clearly
Мишень наблюдаю.
and the target, but not the crosshairs, not yet.
Продолжаем устойчивое причаливание.
We have stable
Мишень
final approach.
левее, ниже.
Target is to the left and lower than 1 square, by 1 square.
Принято. Мотель 7 БВС готов гореть. ГСО 4 есть.
GSO 4.
Soyuz now 110 meters away from its final destination at the Poisk module, continuing to close its rate at the proper approach rate of about 0.5 of a meter per second. All is in good shape. The Soyuz vehicle, the crew on board in the descent module, strapped into their respective seats. Sergei Ryzhikov in the center seat as Soyuz commander, flanked on his left by Andrei Borisenko, about to arrive at the station for his second tour on board. Shane Kimbrough in the right seat of the descent module, his second visit to the station, the first having occurred on the STS-126 mission several years ago as a mission specialist during the assembly phase of the International Space Station.
Target is to the left and higher than the periscope by 1 square. Crosshairs aligned. Range 75 meters, rate .34.
Flying over the heart of Italy at an altitude of 250 miles, a great view of the Soyuz MS-02. 2 days after its launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, its solar arrays properly oriented for the final few feet prior to contact and capture.
Range 49 meters. Expecting readiness. And now range 47 and rate .22. Range 45, and we have SS web pair system powered up. S1 command yes, and display 44 within
45 meters away, now the docking mechanism has been powered up on the forward end of the Soyuz MS-02. That docking probe will nestle into the Poisk module's docking mechanism. The two vehicles will have an opportunity to dampen their relative motion against each other for a few minutes, both the Soyuz and the station, before the retraction of the docking probe begins to pull the two docking interfaces close together for a hard mate that then will be followed by the closing of the Soyuz hooks on the Poisk module. That will set the stage for a series of leak checks over the course of the next 2 hours prior to the opening of the hatches that will allow the newly arrived crew members, Ryzhikov, Borisenko, and Kimbrough, an opportunity to be greeted by the Expedition 49 crew on board, Ivanishин, Rubins, and Onishi.
28 meters for range. Rate inaudible. .12. We have slight misalignment of crosshairs and pitch.
Now passing over Russian ground stations, over Romania. Again, a great view of the Soyuz MS-02 spacecraft closing in just about 35 meters away from its docking to the Poisk module to complete a 2-day journey from the launch pad at Baikonur and to restore the space station to a 6-person complement.
Range 22 meters. Rate .4. Crosshairs aligned in the center of periscope.
Just underneath the docking port, you can see that diamond-shaped mechanism. That is the docking target to which the automated rendezvous system will align the crosshairs just a few moments from now. Again, no issues. The Soyuz being guided in automatically at this point for its docking. Just 22 meters separating Soyuz and the International Space Station.
The center of the target is lower and to the left of 1 square, and we have a slight deviation in yaw.
15 метров дальность.
Range 15 meters. 1.5 squares along the target diameter. We do not observe any object. Rate is 0.12.
13 meters now between the Soyuz and its docking port. On the space-facing side of the International Space Station, the Poisk module coming in at a rate of just over 1/10 of a meter per second, right on the marks, no issues reported, flying over southern Russia.
Yaw and slight deviation in pitch.
Eight meters now separating the two vehicles as we stand by for contact and capture of the International Space Station.
Standing by for contact. We still have slight misalignment. We have contact.
We have contact, docking confirmed and capture confirmed at 4:52 a.m. Central Time as the International Space Station and Soyuz MS-02 flew 251 statute miles over southern Russia. Again, docking confirmed at 4:52 a.m. Central Time, 12:52 p.m. Moscow time.
Docking probe indicator not illuminated. D9 indicator not illuminated.
Фаворы, просьба на втором выбрать формат ССВП.
The International Space Station is now in free drift, all thrusters having been disabled to allow the relative motion between Soyuz and the station to settle down a bit prior to the retraction of the docking probe and the initiation of the hooks closing between the Soyuz and the Poisk module. Again, docking smooth and successful, right on time, right on the money at 12:52 p.m. Moscow time, 4:52 a.m. Central time.
Pressure section 1, 136 in the spherical zone.
Docking probe currently being retracted. Standing by for that to occur, for a hard mate to be initiated, and for the hooks to close.
Work per page 81. Deactivate the floodlight. S18 command to deactivate the floodlight.
Закрываем. Закрыто РПВ-1. Высота 800.
RPV-1 to close. Airflow regulator. First measurement.
Выполнять первый замер.
Working on first measurement. Copy.
As we stand by for the completion of the retraction of the docking mechanism and the initiation of the hooks closing, the International Space Station now with two Soyuz vehicles docked to the complex. Once again, at the Earth-facing side, you see the Soyuz MS-01, the vehicle that brought Anatoly Ivanishin, Cade Rubins, and Takoya Onishi to the complex back in July. And now at the space-facing side on the Poisk module is the MS-02, just having arrived just 3 minutes ago at 4:52 a.m. Central Time.
Power, congratulations on successful docking.
Фаворы ЦП Москвы.
Связи фаворы.
Поздравляем вас с успешной стыковкой.
Спасибо. Мы вас тоже поздравляем.
Congratulations, Pavore.
Совместной работы.
Yes, and our congratulations to you for the great support.
Уточните фавором команду R7 выдавать нам.
R7 command, do we execute it?
Да, выдаем.
Это выдаем R7.
Yes, you have.
This is Mission Control Korolyov. The Soyuz docking mechanism has now fully retracted to form a hard mate between Soyuz and the International Space Station, and the Soyuz hooks are driving.
Выдаем R7. Дмитрий, 17.
Person 520 and D17 indicator is not illuminated.
15 закрытие крюков.
D15 indicator hooks closure.
Москвы в 12:58, есть загорание Киев-Закар.
Moscow, we have the indicator.
And the visiting vehicle officer has confirmed that the Soyuz hooks are closed, so we have a hard mate with the Soyuz MS-02 now firmly attached to the hoist module of the International Space Station. It was a textbook rendezvous for the three newest arrivals at the International Space Station. Now a six-person crew on board the complex as Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko have joined Kate Rubins, Anatoly Ivanishin, and Takoya Onishi. And just about 2.5 hours from now, the hatches will be scheduled to swing open to enable the six crew members to greet one another for the first time and to begin their joint operations. Once again, it will only be a 9-day joint handover for Expedition 49 before Ivanishin, Rubins, and Onishi depart the international outpost in the MS-01 Soyuz vehicle for their landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan on the morning of October 30th, Kazakhstan time, which will be very late in the evening U.S. time of Saturday, October 29th. So with that, we'll wrap up our docking coverage for this morning. Once again, an effortless and textbook rendezvous and docking for the Soyuz MS-02 to the hoist module of the International Space Station, docking occurring over southern Russia at 12:52 p.m. Moscow time, 4:52 a.m. Central time, just a few minutes ahead of schedule. Within 6 minutes after the initial contact and capture, the hooks were closed between the Soyuz and the hoist module to form a hard mate. Over the next couple of hours, the crew members on either side of the docking interface will conduct leak checks to make sure we have an airtight seal between the Soyuz and the International Space Station before the hatches will be open and the six crew members will greet each other for the first time. We will be back on the air 2 hours from now at 7 a.m. Central Time with our hatch opening and welcoming ceremony broadcast on NASA television. Once again, a smooth arrival of the International Space Station and the newest trio of crew members at the complex as the Soyuz arrived just a few minutes ahead of schedule at 4:52 a.m. Central Time for a perfect rendezvous and docking to the hoist module of the International Space Station. We'll see you back in 2 hours from now at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time with our hatch opening broadcast. Until then, this is Mission Control Korolyov.